PXG has done it again with the launch of a new lineup of drivers, fairways, hybrids, and irons. The new Gen 5 golf clubs deliver significantly increased MOI, faster ball speeds, longer distances, and tighter dispersions, all coupled with the exceptional feel and sound golfers have come to expect from PXG. Schedule your custom fitting or buy online at pxg.com.
Welcome into another edition of the Stripe Show podcast. It is a Froggy Wednesday, and I got to be honest with you, I'm extremely excited for multiple reasons today. Number one, we're getting into my favorite part of the golf schedule now. Nothing against any of the tournaments we've already had, nothing against the AT&T Pro-Am and other tournaments, but I feel like once we get to the waste management, I mean, it is on. The season really heats up. We've got waste management, then we have the Genesis, then we'll start the Florida Swing, we have the Players, and then we get into the first major of the year. I mean, we're really starting to heat up. But also, I'm excited today because we have a guest that I've been trying to get here on the podcast for a long time. And one day last week, out of the blue, he finally answered my Instagram message. I must have looked like a crazy stalker in your Instagram, Hunter, because I messaged her about 10 times. Ladies and gentlemen, Hunter Mahan on the podcast today, man. It's a pleasure to have you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. We have to credit my wife to that because she was, we've kind of started to engage a little bit more on Instagram and different scenarios. And there's so many functions on it that I had no idea. I'm barely able to post anything and do little videos and stuff. But she found you and we found you. So I'm very excited to be here.
It is. There's primary, there's general, then there's like requests.
It's incredible.
And the requests have different tabs under them too. Like it really is. It's almost like Instagram doesn't want you to find them.
I don't know. It's its own, it's like your phone. Your phone can do so many things. I can know how to call people and email people, and that's right. And I got a few apps, and that's about it.
Exactly. So Hunter, you, man, 6-time PGA Tour winner, former winner of the event here that we're having this week, 2010 Waste Management. But let's first talk about last week. So had a little weather delay there, some crazy weather. This time of year can really introduce crazy weather. You think California, you think warm, but last week was not warm. They had a hailstorm, they had crazy winds, had crazy rains, all kinds of good stuff going on at the at Pebble at the AT&T. But Justin Rose able to win it, get his first win in I think 3 years, and I'm pretty sure. I mean, as an outsider looking in, I'm guessing you and Rosie had to be somewhat buddies. You guys both were students at one time of Sean Foley, so I'm guessing once a buddy of yours.
Yeah, we played plenty of practice rounds together. Obviously, with Sean, we were on the range quite a bit, played against each other in Ryder Cups and different things. So we've got a long history. He's an incredible player, someone who is absolutely he's a golf nerd. He absolutely loves it. Like he puts his soul and he puts his whole life into being the best that he can be. And, former #1 player in the world, major champion. Like it's impressive what he's done. Starting out where he was from, what was he, a 16-year-old kid or 17-year-old kid at the British making that shot, missing a bunch of cuts. Like he's been through it, man. He's persevered and he keeps grinding at it because he enjoys the journey and loves to be a part of professional golf and always looking to get better.
It was his first win since 2019. And I mean, it's difficult. And we'll definitely talk about this later. And I mean, it's no secret. You at one time at very close near the very top of the game. And then all of a sudden just it kind of goes away. And so with Rosie doesn't win, does that doubt start to seep in after you don't win since 2019? And I know he had made a coaching change. He'd made a club change. He'd gone back to Sean Foley.
Yeah.
Does that doubt start to seep in of, can I get back to where I used to be? Can I play with these guys?
Yeah, I mean, when I joined the tour and I felt when I was starting out, the PGA Tour was kind of older in the sense that you didn't really hit your peak until your late 20s and 30s. And when I played, there was Kenny Perry was in his 40s. He hit his peak, and Vijay Singh dominated well into his 40s. There was a lot of really good players who played well into their 40s. I don't know if we're going to really see that much anymore. I feel like this is such a young man's game, and these guys are so motivated in their careers that it feels like they're more into their golf in such a more powerful and intentional way than ever before. And so it's going to be hard, I feel like, for the next 10 years to see a 40-year-old guy compete against these young guys. I think it really is. I think it's just you're talking about someone who's been on, Rosie's been on tour. He's probably 42, 43. He's been grinding for a long time since he's 17 years old and he turned pro. I mean, that's a long time to be so focused on something and to work so hard physically and mentally, put all that into it. I mean, I know when I got to my, the last few years, I was just kind of done. I was like, I've got 3 kids. I've got 4 now. And I just was like, I know what it takes, and I'm just not willing to do that. I'm not willing to leave my family, because I didn't ever want my family to be just traveling on the road with me, because my children deserve their own life, and they deserve to go to school and have their own friends and develop their own relationships and figure out what's best for them. And I just got so burnt out. And when I played and when I was playing all the time and practicing, man, I put a lot into it, like mentally and emotionally, way more than I should have. I should have emotionally been more detached from it. But it was just hard for me to do that because I only knew one way. And so that probably took some years off of my maybe career, but I had so many great years. I didn't really look at it as a negative. It was just sort of my way. So when you see Rosie do what he did, it takes tremendous resolve and perseverance to kind of keep grinding and to keep feeling like you have more to give to the game. And it's an absolutely, and in the fashion that he did, it almost makes sense that someone who's so experienced, who understands a Monday finish and what's going to go into all the stress and all the up and downs, all the unknowns of when are we going to play, when are we not going to play, having to deal with all those things. It makes sense for Rosie, who's kind of been through it all in his career, to come out on top in the way he did.
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult, difficult decision to make, and that's something I was going to get into later. But you had kind of already gone ahead and gotten into it. 6-time PGA Tour winner, as high as 4th in the world in 2012. 4 Presidents Cup teams, 3 Ryder Cup teams. Won some really big tournaments. You finished top 10 in every single major over your career. I mean, you really were there. That's got to be a tough decision to make, to go, hey, my family is more important than me continuing what I'm doing on the golf course, and to make that decision. That can't be something that you came to easily, a decision that was easy to make.
Yes and no. I mean, it was like 2 years ago. We were flying to Truckee for the tournament, and it's actually a beautiful place. Course is really fun. But we got there, got to the hotel. I had my family, and I literally looked around and was like, I'm done. We're going to go home. I don't have any interest in going to the golf course. I have no interest in practicing, preparing to figure out what to do on the golf course, how to play. Like, I was just done. I just was completely mentally exhausted, and I was tired of the grind. I was tired of traveling, hotels, practicing. I just was completely sick of it, so
Wow.
It wasn't a hard decision. It was actually very easy, because I was like, we just need to go home, and I just want to be for a while. I just want to go home and not let golf dictate my life for me. I want to be a little bit more in control of what we do. And so it wasn't truly that easy. I mean, I know Ryder Cups and Presidents Cups and majors come around, you miss those moments because they're just so special and they're amazing. I miss my friends out there from the Ping, club guys who make the clubs. You see them every week, to your players and friends and all those different people you see along the road. Those are your real friends. And when you come home, you don't have as many great relationships because you've spent so much time traveling. So it's hard to leave those people and not see them, but you stay in touch. But it is starting like a new life here at home with my kind of wife and kids, and we have a different routine. But it was the easiest decision because I'm very happy with what I'm doing. And I just, I get to live and be with them and take care of them, which is extremely important. It's anyone knows who's raising children that it's a full-time job, and it demands your attention and demands intentionality to be there every moment. And I'm really thankful that I had the career that I have to be able to do that. And then, I'm only 40 years old, and to pivot to maybe something else that I'm interested in. So I love that I have a lot of options to do kind of whatever. and through social media and all these different platforms, you can do a lot of things and talk about a lot of stuff. And
Right.
sit here and talking to you. So I'm very excited about where my life's going to go. And I think I've got all kinds of avenues that I could take because life is really big, and golf is just one part of my life. And now I'm going to do something else, whether I don't know what that is, but I'm excited that I can do something else.
Is there ever a thought of you getting back out there and doing it again?
Very. I mean, I don't even really hit balls that much anymore. So
Really?
I don't. I like to work out, and we've got pickup, and no, my kids are really young. I mean,
When's the last time you played golf?
I mean, I don't know. It's probably been at least 6 months.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so it's not something I've. I think about, like, I know
You watch golf on TV?
Occasionally, not very much. I mean, we've got other things to do. I'm not going to sit on the couch with 4 children running around. Like, that's not really an option.
Right.
I try to watch all the big stuff, and I try to watch as much as I can and be interested in things. Because I do like the different lens that I have and the different scope of watching these guys play. Before, it was competitors, and it was, it was kind of not that you're rooting against them, but when someone won, you're like, gosh, I should have, I can
right,
and stuff like that. So there's not any angst to it. I watch it and I'm just in awe of some of these guys, and I think it's fun watching them play.
Is broadcast ever something you thought about doing? Because you obviously have a different perspective, than somebody else who you've actually played, been inside the ropes, and been under the grind.
Yeah, I don't want to travel. I'm not going to travel the same schedule that I had before. It's just too much. And that's not something that I'm interested in right now. But it's something that, I did it at the Ryder Cup a couple of years ago, and it was really fun to kind of be there on site because the Ryder Cup is so special to me. And to call it, and to get that feeling was really fun. But I'm not going to get up and go travel again when I've been doing that for my whole life. I'm very happy with just being here and figuring out from having an actual home base.
I might be wrong, but did you not weren't you leading a tournament, and didn't you leave because your wife was pregnant and about to have a child?
Yeah. So that would at RBC Canadian Open 9.5 years ago. We had, that was my first Zoe. And so it was after 2 days. I think we had a 2-shot lead. Was in a great rhythm, was playing great. She was 3 weeks early. And my agent came on the range and said, "I've got great news." He said it in a funny way because it was, it wasn't like he wasn't running, like he was like, "This is very weird, and this is one of those situations that players talk about, but never ever happens." And then, sure enough, her water broke, and it was time to get home.
So you left after leading in 2 rounds.
Yeah, I felt bad. John Merrick was my playing partner that day, and he had to go be a single for the rest of that Saturday, which is unfortunate for him, and I felt bad leaving him the way I did. But I think Brent Snedeker ended up winning that week. So one of those crazy moments that you never, you think about when you're having children, but you never think it would actually come to that.
Had you made that decision prior to that? Hey, if this were to happen, I don't care if I'm leading, I'm going.
Yes, I mean you do, but it's not something that you
did you
really
hesitate? Like, did you think, wait a second, I'm leading, I shouldn't, or did you just nope?
No, it was my time to go. I mean, it was like the first our first child, and so it was a moment you can't miss, right? It's my so I saw someone later and they said, "I'm happy you left," and he said it was your responsibility to be there. And that always stuck with me because I firmly believe that it's not you don't really have a choice. It is your responsibility. And so it was amazing. It was so cool. It was an amazing, having children is incredible.
It is. It's a blessing, and it's something that not everybody is, unfortunately not everybody's able to do that. And so when you are, for you to understand that it is a blessing and a privilege, and then to be there is, I guess the writing was on the wall for us as fans and as fans of golf and fans of Hunter Mahan to know that, hey, listen, man, golf is great. It's good. But at the end of the day, it's not number one.
It was, it's a miracle to have children. And when you see it actually live, it's the
Oh,
craziest thing you've ever seen.
I
And
always
like,
tell people, I remember when my wife, I have a son, he's 20 years old. And I remember like it was yesterday when he was born. And I had been with my wife for, let's see, we started dating in 97. My son was born in 03. So we've been together a little over 5 years.
mm,
The day that she gave birth to my son, I looked at her completely different,
mm,
completely different. For
yeah,
for for the human body to grow another human body inside of them and then deliver and give birth is truly something that is amazing and you can't explain. And so to see it happen firsthand, I understand completely what you're saying.
yeah. There's, like I said, it's a miracle. It doesn't even remotely make sense that that we are capable of that, and that women are capable of doing that. It's so cool, and we've built this family that is ours, and it's no one else's, and they're our
Right.
children, and we get to watch them grow, and we get a front row seat at their awesomeness.
It's really almost more strange that me and the media and golf fans and the public find it weird that you would leave
I
leading a
think
tournament
some,
rather than, hey, he did what he was supposed to do.
I think some do, but it's always a lot of talk until someone's actually put in that situation. What they would do and stuff.
Right.
I always found the argument that what can a man do, or they can't really do anything, and it's like I thought that was like the dumbest argument, because as a man, your sole responsibility is to support your wife. So
Right.
the idea that you can't do anything, it's embarrassing talk for a man to say that.
It is. I agree with you, and it's good. But you know what? It's good to you still had your career the way you wanted it, and not many people get the opportunity to walk away on their terms when they're ready. And the fact that you were able to do that, you know what? That's huge kudos to you.
Thank you. Sorry, cut out for a second.
That's no worries. Um, as far as being active on social media, I know you're extremely active now. I always see you on Twitter, but it seems to be during sporting events. And that's the thing is Twitter seems to be a hotbed for two things: sports and politics.
Yeah.
And it really gets people riled up. So but you're a big sports fan in general,
Yeah.
not of just golf, but I see you active during basketball. I see you active during football, and you're active during a lot of different sporting events. Is that kind of your go-to thing for Twitter?
Yes, my uncle would always laugh at me, because when Sports Center used to replay itself, 8, 9, 10 o'clock,
Yes.
he would always say that, just if you want to know what's going on in the world of sports, just ask Hunter. He can tell you all the scores and who did what, because I would watch it all the time. I've always loved sports, and now we're just kind of watching it through a different medium. And so people, as you said, they get riled up at sports and the rivalries and stuff like that, and poking people is always kind of funny, because they take it too seriously sometimes. And Twitter's just, it's fun. I think you get cool information, you get it quickly sometimes. And I kind of enjoy, come the Super Bowl's coming up, so you're going to be able to see so much information, and the cool thing is you get to see it from like some experts and former players' perspectives, kind of live right there, which is really neat. I don't need to go to a channel or a different channel
Right.
to get their opinions. I can see it kind of live. And so I think that's so fun and so interesting about Twitter and social media, is getting people who have been there and their opinions live as it's happening. I think that's so cool.
Yeah, I always appreciate the opinion of somebody who's been there. And later on in the podcast, I have some questions I want to ask you about golf. And it's great to ask, people who are, quote, PGA professionals and whatnot, but to get the perspective of somebody who's been inside the ropes, who's played under the gun, to hear these football guys who have played the game and understand exactly what it is. That's why me as a fan, even outside of being a Buccaneers fan and outside of being a Brady fan, I'm excited to see Tom Brady. I know he said he's not joining the Fox booth until 2024. Is going to take a full year to kind of let things cool down and focus on some things. I'm excited to see him in the booth, because I enjoy, as much as I'm not a Cowboys fan, I am one of those people that I like to watch the Cowboys fail. I'm one of those that gets like just like a little warmness in my heart watching the Cowboys not do well. I do enjoy Romo on TV because his perspective is different of somebody who's been there. And I look forward to the same thing from Brady, because you don't get that from just anybody.
Oh, 100%. And someone who's been in the game recently can give you real in-depth knowledge of what he sees from a quarterback perspective, and from, I think, also a defensive perspective, since he's basically been looking at defenses for the past 23 plus years and figuring out how do I dissect them and how do I attack them. And the good thing with football, in most sports, it's pretty cyclical amongst coaches and ideas, right? So he knows everybody and everybody knows everybody.
Right.
And so he's going to have an incredible lens. And I think it seems smart to take a year off and sort of galvanize who he's going to be as a broadcaster.
Yeah, there's got to be some training, correct? He's got to go through some type of training to understand what's expected of him and where he needs to be.
I know Tony worked extremely hard when he kind of made that choice. He was working really hard on, practice games, working in the booth, perfecting what he wanted to say and how he was going to say it. I mean, it's a challenge to go to something else and sort of explain to the audience in these little increments what you're trying to say. You can have a lot to say, but you only have a small window. So you got to get all that stuff in there really, really quickly.
Yeah, I admire Tom for taking this on because it is different. As much as it is a sport that he understands and a topic that he can speak to, it is very difficult. Drew Brees tried it, and you see it lasted one season, and then NBC moved on. It's not just add water, stir, and all of a sudden you have this, this delicious drink. It doesn't work that way. And I think we see it with golf as well. As much as he could be polarizing, I loved Johnny Miller. I think Johnny Miller was probably the best there was in the booth, and Johnny was great. And outside of Johnny, we haven't found anybody else. I think Azinger's great. Trevor Emmelman is growing into the role. I also really appreciate, he's a friend of the podcast, I appreciate Brandel Chambly. People don't obviously a lot of times agree with Brandel, but he has an opinion, number one. And number two, it usually comes from a place where he's educated himself and he's able to speak, and he has his opinion that is formed from other facts, whether you agree with it or not. And so that's a completely different thing to do than playing the sport.
Oh, a good friend of mine is Dan Orlovsky. I got to play with him at the Travelers Championships.
Yeah.
Dan has turned into an incredible analyst and someone who can truly educate the audience on what's actually happening during football games. I love to listen to him. He puts the time in, he puts the work in, and he has an encyclopedia of knowledge up there. And not only is he able to know the information, he spits it out so you can understand it and give you the really finer points and details of what's going on. I think that's sometimes when I watch a telecast or something, it's so blah in terms of here's the yardage in the club. Sometimes there doesn't seem to be enough time to get into situations as much as I would like. That's why it was kind of fun when I did the Ryder Cup a few years ago. There was enough time to where you can kind of get into a few different things in a few different situations.
Right.
Because in golf, situations are extremely important, and what guys are thinking and how they're going to attack things is quite fascinating.
Right. Exactly. I've talked about this before with proximity to the pin. So proximity to the pin to me is a jaded stat because you may not be aiming at the pin. You miss it, pull it, 3 yards, 4 yards, 5 yards, and now you're sitting right next to the pin. It looks like you hit a great shot when in reality you pulled it and you didn't hit your target.
Right. Oh, for sure. It's probably a good point when you talk about proximity to the pin and stats and data. That has changed golf in a big way, with guys all of a sudden smashing it, right? Because now all of a sudden the data says the closer you get to the hole, the closer you drive it, the closer you are to the hole, then your next shot's going to be closer, and so on and so forth, right? So that's, I think data and all this analytic stuff has kind of changed golf in a really sort of interesting way. There's nothing wrong with getting it closer to the hole, but situationally, the tournament you're playing in, how you're gonna have to play that course that day, and all the other things that affect it, the outcome, are always really interesting, right? It's sort of like I always think about Tiger playing a U.S. Open or whatever. Is Tiger trying to play the very best round that he can and shoot the lowest score, or is he playing the U.S. Open and knowing that doubles will kill you and you can't really make those up? So you have to be really smart and to understand where you are and how you're going to play this golf course today, and how am I going to win this golf tournament at the end of the day?
I think as great as Tiger was, his ball striking was phenomenal. However, it's like at Augusta National, even when he was able to win in 2019, I think as much of it was ball striking and play, it's also he knows how to play that golf course, knows exactly where to miss it. And when the ball's going where he knows it's going, he knows what side of the green he's on. He knows everything about it. And so that the knowledge that he has and able to do that and stay disciplined and not get out of what the game plan is, that plays in his favor probably much more than most other people.
Yeah, mistakes. He doesn't make any mistakes there, right? You don't see him three putt. You don't see him make big numbers. There's just this, when he's the best ball striker of all time, and we saw it that week. And when I was watching it, I was totally thinking, it was so strange to me. He was like chewing gum, and he just was like so relaxed in his face. He had this calm demeanor. There was no fist pumping. There was there was oddly like no like energy, because because it almost felt like he knew he had it, meaning he feels good, game's on point, I'm right, I can win this. I'm just going to methodically move around the golf course, and he didn't waste any energy. It was just he was so in control. It was kind of funny. We're so used to seeing him not out of control, but he's showing you emotion and fiery, and he always has some swagger that we never really seen before.
Right.
And that week, man, it just looked like he knew, I'm just going to keep putting the pressure on everyone else because I know exactly what I'm doing. And there's such a sense of calm when he goes there, right? He just knows how to play.
Yeah, he let other people make mistakes. I mean,
exactly.
I'm not taking anything away from what he did and saying that Tiger didn't win that tournament, everybody else backed up. I'm not saying that. I'm not hinting at that. Absolutely not. However, he did wait for guys to make those mistakes that they do make, knowing that things would happen, pressure would get to people, and then he just stayed steady the whole time. And so that's why he was able to win. But something you brought up earlier I want to get back to is how good these young kids are. They're coming out of college now, ready to compete on the PGA Tour. And like you said, that didn't happen before. Do you relate that to Tiger Woods, or do you relate that to Tiger Woods and the fitness aspect has changed? All the cell phones that we carry now with the cameras and all the stuff we can study and TrackMan. And I mean, is it the equipment, the technology, the ball, so much has changed in golf. Is that why these kids are so ready to perform?
I think that's a great question. And I think it's really interesting, probably because there's so many parts to that. Kids now can receive clubs, and it's like they have club deals at a really, really young age. So they're getting fine-tuned to their equipment at a younger age. The technology of understanding the golf swing has never been better. We understand why and how things work. And it seems like the technology and there's better teachers like all around us now. I remember, kind of growing up, they only felt like there was a few teachers out there on the range. And there was only so many really around the country or even around the world that really knew what they were talking about. Everybody had theories about how to play golf and how to
swing from the inside and roll your hands over, draw it.
Right. So there's all these there are theories, but there wasn't much like real data and real understanding of what is going on. And that's blowing out the window. Everyone knows kind of what is real about a golf swing and why it works now more than ever. And the fitness and these guys, I went to a college tournament not too long ago. And the size, the physical nature of these guys are big. I mean, I just saw the Oklahoma State golf team a couple months ago, and I mean,
look like linebackers,
big dudes, just big and strong, big hands. They can pound it. Swings are all excellent. So it's just different, but it's cool to see guys like Max Oma and Colin Morikawa, who aren't really big, strong guys, and they just play their way and they play their game. And there's a big difference between standing on the range and bombing it and being strong and going out there competing for 20 plus weeks a year, 4 rounds, pushing through all that stuff.
Right.
And getting scores and shooting really good scores and handling those big moments. Right.
That's exactly it. You bring something else up in that people want to hit it a long ways, and the distance debate's been out there. Are we hitting the ball too far? Do we need to dial it back? Do we this? Do we that? And then on the opposite of that, you've heard driver show and putt for dough. But what is more important? Is it more important to drive it in the fairway and be closer to the hole so you're holding a shorter club in your hand to then approach the green? Or is it more important to just hit it straight, not hit it that far, and then do your business around the green?
It comes down to ball striking. So Do you want to hit fairways? Of course, and hit it long and far, absolutely. But through history, through time, it's all about ball striking. Putting is very, I don't say cyclical, but there's a lot of good putters who don't have a lot of wins or never really reach top 10 in the world, but they're great putters because they usually can't, they're not great ball strikers. You got to be putting yourself in those positions all the time. I was able to be a captain's pick on some Ryder Cup teams because of my ball striking and my consistency of sort of putting pressure on the other opponents. So driving it far is I mean, Phil can't, he hits it kind of all over the lot. Tiger Woods went through his time all over the lot, but you get those guys, you get irons in their hands, you get them on their greens, they're able to score.
Right.
And so, that was so crazy about Tiger when he was at his very best. He was the best ball striker in the world, and he was driving incredible. And then inside 10 feet, it was a tap in. So when you combine all those things, it's crazy. But ball striking, number one, will lead you to success. And putting is artistry. It's not something I think you can sort of teach it, but whenever you see guys with all these lines on the green and all, they're whenever I see more stuff in this person's bag when they come to the green, usually they're not as good putters. When Steve Stricker rolls out there and he's got 3 balls and you can tell he's just kind of watching it go in and feel. Right. He's just being repetitive. He's doing the same thing over and over again. That's what good putters do. They're just extremely repetitive with what they do. And they sort of know how they do it. It's kind of their own secret little way. And when you see someone trying to putt good and it doesn't look natural, Sergio's never been a good putter, but an incredible ball striker.
Right.
He had an incredible career. But there's times when he looks like he just doesn't have control over it. Like it's just, you don't understand it because putting is very different than the swing. Putting is very artistic. Right. You can't just, it's hard to explain, but that's the best way I've ever heard it is that ball striking, iron play, it's more technical.
Right. It is.
Use technique. And then putting, you just see good putters. They're looking at it. They it's just a completely different mindset.
It looks like they can't miss. They just roll everything right in.
I got to play with Steve at the President's Cup in 2007, and it's an art form. It truly, truly, truly is.
Yeah, I was there Doral the year. If you remember, one of the years Tiger won Doral, it may have been 16, maybe 15 or 16. No, probably. It was the year he won. It was the year he won all the times with Foley. He won a bunch. He didn't win a major, but he won quite a few times.
I think that was 12 or 13 actually.
It was pretty early, but Stricker gave Tiger, quote, a putting lesson on Wednesday on the driving range. Stricker finished second that week to Tiger. Tiger won, and he even said that Stricker really helped him. Stricker gave him something, and it's weird how something like that can just change everything. And that week, I don't think Tiger had more than he didn't have a round with more than 25 putts all week long.
Yeah, I mean he knows that place extremely well, and putting it doesn't take much, right? You just get a little something in your hands higher, right? It's just so minute the difference in just a setup. Loft on your foot, whatever it is,
right?
Can just change your field, and all of a sudden you can sort of see it start online, and then from there, in green reading too, right? Tiger's green reading ability, Jordan Spieth's green reading ability is just unbelievable. It's exceptional.
Yeah, the tour's changed a lot since obviously you decided to do your own thing and walk away from the tour. And we have the introduction of Live and everything else. And it really has just been, it has turned into kind of like a us versus them type deal. As far as Live goes, is that something that one of my questions I had written down before we started this, which I don't have to ask you now, I was going to ask you, is that something you considered? Obviously, if you considered walking away from you did walk from the tour, you weren't going to travel all over the world to play golf on Live. But back when you were playing, is Live something you would have considered?
I think it's something I would have considered. I mean, the idea of playing a lot less golf and making, sort of guaranteed money per week, and then giving you money is something I think you have to consider. Or in a better way, depending on where your career is and who you are, it is something you consider or something you don't consider at all.
Like Richard Bland going to Live, I get. Okay.
Yeah. When Harold Varner went, I was happy for him. I couldn't have been happier for a guy. He's one of the most beloved guys on tour. He's the nicest guy. he's a story that you root for. And so him to make that sort of life-changing money and without the stress and everything he's been through, that's awesome. That's great. You know, Charles Howell's another good example, someone who's mid 40s. You know, I don't know. I haven't talked to Charles about where he's going to go with his career, but he's probably like a couple of 3 more years of live golf and this, I'm good. Like, this is a perfect situation for me. So
is there anybody who surprised you?
Well, I think Phil is still a surprise to me. For someone who's, it felt like his popularity on the tour, winning the PGA, it was like he was getting more popular than ever. And then kind of, he didn't throw it all away, but he made this huge pivot.
Yeah. And the way he went about doing it was pretty sloppy.
And all that associated with it was kind of crazy. And to see his popularity plummet the way it has, I would have never guessed that. I mean, Dustin, it made a lot of sense. He was rumored to go for, as soon as this thing came around, for a long time.
I'll tell you somebody who surprised me was Taylor Gooch.
Yeah.
I thought Taylor Gooch was set up to have a really solid run on the tour. And it just really surprised me.
Yeah. And a guy like Hudson Swafford, you know, you're kind of like, why that seems strange. Someone who might have some really strong, exceptional years ahead of them, Taylor. He's actually played really well, it seems like, when he's gone to live, and he was on this kind of trajectory. But like I said, every person's decision is sort of their own. There really isn't a blanket reason for a lot of this stuff. And their stock has been kind of all over the place. I thought it was not going to work at all. And then it seemed to go, well, these terms are sort of interesting. The team aspect I find kind of fascinating, but I don't feel like they've actually used the team aspect enough. And people still don't know who's on whose teams. They haven't figured out how to actually package that for the audience yet.
Yeah, it's not been branded well. And today now Liv says they made no money in the first year. And that's part of their lawsuit against the tour. Their attorneys claim they've made no money, that the PGA Tour has done irreparable damage to them. So I understand that's all lawyer speak to try and get, I understand what's going on there. But Harry Higgs made a statement, because Harry's not one to hold back. Did you hear what Harry said?
Harry's got nothing to lose as far as I'm concerned. I know Harry's from Dallas here, and he's as authentic as they come. The fact he's on tour, is a credit to his work ethic and everything. So I love it. And this is a part of the new age of golfer. And this is like part of Liv. It feels like golfers feel unhinged to just say whatever they want now.
Right.
And they're not worried about it. And I kind of love it.
It is. So Harry said, quote, Liv hurt the tour because they took all the assholes.
There is no doubt about that. Harry said that. There is that sounds just like what he would say. And
I'm guessing he's referring to he kind of softened it a little secondly and said, well, the villains. I'm guessing he's referring to Reed and Bryson.
Sure. They're not oh boy, they're interesting characters, to say the least. And
Bryson's fallen off. You want to talk about a guy that literally plummeted. One time, you remember the week of the Arnold Palmer? That's all anybody talked about was him driving 6. And he tried to drive 6 green. I know he never technically drove the green,
right?
But he carried the lake and did all that. And I remember famously he drove it in the bunker. Lee Westwood played the normal way, and they made the same score. It really kind of went to show you that it isn't all about hitting it as far as you can. But what happened to Bryson? Now I think Cobra's even kind of pulled out a little bit. Cobra and him are not signed yet. They say it could resign, but just a meteoric plummet. It's
very interesting. It feels like he's become more Jake Paul than Tiger Woods, right? Like he has a huge, YouTube following, which is great. Like I think he's using it well, and he's pushing content out there for himself, and that's great. Like he should have that. He obviously has that right, and to put that time into it, that's fantastic. I always felt like he was a golf lifer. Like he loved to grind. He loved to get better. He loved to figure out, how do I shave a half a stroke here and a quarter stroke there? Like he was all in on that. And so I thought his goals and his challenges to get to being the very, very best he could be, he can really do it. He can really accomplish a lot of things. I think putting on the weight and doing that was a little strange, and doing these long drive contests was very odd to me. I had no understanding of why. I know getting stronger and hitting it further, it makes some of that makes sense, but there clearly has been a huge deficit to his swing and his golf game. And now I think he's lost a bunch of weight to kind of figure out like that wasn't a great long-term plan. He's been injured, which obviously if you're going to swing that hard, you're going to lift that much weight, you're going to do those things, you're going to get hurt.
Your body's not
just obvious. I don't, you can't really argue that. So I don't know what, and it seems like all the momentum he sort of carried from that major, and then he was kind of on the same trajectory as Phil, and then it's just tanked. And I mean, he hasn't really played that well in the live events. I don't know what his goals are, and maybe he's gotten doing too many things. I'm not really sure, but he's still a young guy. He still has incredible amount of potential to do a lot of great things. I think his ideas about the clubs and everything, they're great. I mean, they're great for him. But yeah, I mean, his treatment of people is clearly like Cobra's like, we're kind of out of the Bryson business. We're not that interested. I mean, they have to put a lot of work and money into his clubs.
Yeah. And then he shit all over them in a major. He's like, yeah, these drivers are garbage. I'm like, dude, those guys worked hard for you, man.
They busted it to figure out what you need. And what he needs is extremely specific to him. I mean, they have to spend a lot of man hours and money making those drivers and the shafts.
Right.
But you swing that fast with what, 4 degrees, 5-degree driver, whatever it is, ball's not going to go straight. Like, what are you talking about? Like you swing to hit it that hard, straight is not an option. It's 1 out of 10, you hope, right? That's what those long drive guys are trying to do. So it didn't make any sense to anybody throughout the world. And, to make an enemy or to publicly do that is not something I've ever heard of.
No. Now let's get into another guy that I know you know a lot about because you played with him, you've been around him, and maybe you can understand and maybe give us a little insight is what exactly is or who is Patrick Reed?
Well, he's definitely, I think a villain is good. I would say a villain is sort of like kind of an anti-hero. He's someone who has always seemed to play his best when counted against or not a fanfare. Like he seems to truly, I don't know why, he
relishes the hatred almost.
He sort of loves to be the guy to spoil everyone's, dreams in a way.
Right.
And he, we came to the Ryder Cup when he first, made his first Ryder Cup, and Phil had this great speech on Saturday night, and he's talking to the guys, and he's pointing everyone out, how much he's enjoyed being around them, talking about it's so great for you guys to go out there and individually win your own point. That's such a magical moment. You don't get that once every 2 years to be a Ryder Cup player. So go out and win it. And he just went down to everybody and just talked about how much he loved them and how much getting to know them and their wife, how special it is. And he said, Patrick, you don't have to kill us, man. We're here for you. We're your competitors, but hey, you're going to be on tour with us. Come on, man. Like, we want to be your friend. It's okay. And he really, we really enjoyed him. And it was, I felt like it was such a powerful moment. And you saw it after that. Him joking around with Spieth and Thomas, like he was really growing into Captain America, and the players were really enjoying him. So I'm not sure what had happened from that moment to now where it's sort of fizzled. Not every relationship from a live player to a PGA player has fizzled like that. So that's, I don't like to see that at all.
It seems like every rules issue follows him, whether it's
that's
the bunker, at the Hero, it's the embedded ball where he dug it out and then showed where it was. Even the one last week where he said it went in one tree and the video shows clearly it went in another tree.
There's a lot of weird stuff. He said that it went in this tree, and because the marshal said it went in that tree. So is
he a cheater?
I don't, there's rules officials there to help with the process, right? And so if he hit it, I'm not privy to exactly what happened when the tree, because sometimes you just go to the marshal and you're like, hey, what did you hear? What did you see? And you have to go off of that sometimes.
Right.
Like I said, looking up there, looking at binoculars, say, yeah, I can see my 2 marks on there. Well, did the official see that? Did a playing partner see that? Or did just Patrick see that?
Right.
I don't have those answers. So
Yeah,
I don't really know. He's the only one who can say that. I don't want to call him a cheater. I just haven't been there to sit there and say 100% it's true. I remember the embedded ball thing was there was an official there. He should have probably left it in there before taking it out, and then
before cramming his thumb down in there.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
you're kind of
remember.
like, well, you kind of had to wait. There needed to be another player there to kind of here. I want you to check this embedded ball. I want you to make sure it is, and take a look at it. I was always, if there was ever a ruling like that, I'm going to lean toward the player's side. Like,
right, you don't touch the ball until somebody gets there.
Right, like I'm going to check it out and go, yeah, that's we can make that ruling quickly unless you want to call for somebody. Whatever. It's very rarely that there's player-to-player interaction that's not smooth or just like, yeah, you're good. But you do have to usually call someone over to get, a ruling so that everybody's sort of on the same page that things aren't happening without, knowledge, everyone else's knowledge.
I'll ask you real quick, and then I want to ask you if you do have a Patrick Reed story you'd like to tell us. But is there cheating that goes on the PGA Tour? Not from any one person, just in general. Is there hey, somebody marks their ball and they place it back down a little closer, or they move it this way? Are there things that go on the tour that are not exactly 100% by the rules?
I think there are definitely things that happen accidentally, meaning like sometimes there's, the good thing with the tour is there's always officials around to sort of help you with certain things. But I think rarely I think accidentally things might happen. To say, I can't think of a time where there's a ruling because we are sort of at the, we're relying on marshals, we're relying on some older people to help us out and figure out what's going on.
Right.
And there's a lot going on, and there's pissed off pros coming out and going, "Where's my ball? And what's going on?" And so I think there's not active cheating going on. There's just too many people around. There's too many cameras for anyone to think that, oh, that might have happened, or a guy might have, we're looking for a ball and all of a sudden a ball magically appears. If you're gonna, I think always the hardest thing to always figure out is where the ball last crossed.
Right.
That is always that can always lead to a disagreement.
We had that here, if you remember, at the Players. I'm in Ponte Vedra. We had that here at the Players the year Tiger won in 2013.
Yes.
When he snap hooked it on 14.
Yeah.
14. When he snap hooked it on 14 there, he and Casey, I think it was
Casey Whitworth, right?
Yeah. They agreed that it crossed way up, and everybody says that it crossed way back. But if you and your playing partner agree, however, if you're Tiger's playing partner, are you going to tell him that it crossed about 50 yards back, or are you just going to agree like, yeah, this is probably where it crossed, you go ahead and hit another one?
You do have the best angle. So if someone else from, the side point of view has no angle at it. But yeah, I mean, if Tiger Woods is saying, write me down for a 2, he had a 2, you're just, there it is, let's move on. But that's the one thing that's of all the cheating is like, well, the guy puts, there's players who have like, they're always, when they put the ball down, it somehow is closer than, there's a sleight of hand, like a magic trick that players, there was like, oh, it's a little closer than I remember. You don't really have any proof. You didn't really see it, but it just looks weird. But when we're talking about that line, I mean, sometimes we're talking about a big distance there. And so that's I've seen a point of contention. We're trying to figure out where it crossed, and it was hooking, it was moving. I think it was here, that's, if you're talking about a disagreement, or I don't want to call it cheating, because I don't think cheating really happens, but when you talk about it gets fuzzy, when those things get fuzzy, that's the number one thing is, where did the ball last cross? And that I've seen, it's contentious, right? It's like the player does not, I don't want to get in your business of where you think it did, but then it's also your responsibility to protect the field. So that is always an uncomfortable situation for everybody.
Yeah, I don't remember who the third player was, but last year at the Players, I believe it was Daniel Berger.
Yeah.
Casey, and there was one other person. Was it maybe Joel Damon? I don't remember who it was. I don't remember who the three were. And there was some disagreement as to like, and it got kind of ugly. Like, hey, you're wrong, but I'm going to do it because this is what you think, but you're wrong. But that's you
I've heard
have to
that a
all
lot.
three come to an agreement. So with
Yeah.
that being said, get back to a little bit where we were. Do you have any Patrick Reed stories that are just like, kind of go along with everything we've heard about Patrick Reed?
No, like I said, I've only
You played with him, I'm sure, right?
yeah, I've played with it. I mean, like I said, from the being with him at the Ryder Cup when he was, I remember when he came out on tour, it was, he was rough. Like he was
Yeah,
arrogant.
there were the college
I'm
stories
coming out
about how
here.
he had to leave and this, that, and the other.
There's
And
a lot. There's a lot there in his history that is, you don't want anyone to go through. So there's a lot. There's a lot of stuff there. And he came out, but he definitely softened through that time. And that Ryder Cup was fun. He has an incredible short game. Like he works extremely hard. He's passionate about what he's doing, and he's really good. And as we saw last week in Dubai, all that stuff's going on, and he's still contending. Like he loves to be that dude. He wants that smoke. He's not afraid to poke the bear,
right.
and he wants to be involved. And he's not afraid of those moments.
So let's get to the tour now, and the tour has changed a ton since. I mean, hell, it's changed a lot in the last 18 months. Let's be honest. Elevated PGA Tour events. There are certain events that are worth more money than others. Do you think this is a good thing for the tour?
I think this is the first time the players sort of had leverage to tell the tour this is how it's going to be run. This is what we need. Because they couldn't keep doing what they were doing. The players were like, and it showed, right? Like through all this stuff, Phil was right a lot. In the end, he was kind of right a lot. And because all of a sudden there's hundreds of $1 million have been flooded into the tour, and all of a sudden you get these elevated events and they're all $20 million. I don't understand. Like, the interesting part is that they said all the top 20 players agreed to this. And I remember John Rahm right afterwards was like, what, 20 events? I have to play 20 events to be a part of this? It's like, I got to play the European Tour. I got to get my world ranking. I got to get my Ryder Cup points. Like, he seemed to be dumbfounded by, like, who agreed to this? Like, I don't think there's any contracts for any of these players. They have to play 20. Rory already missed one. He missed the Century. So, like, I don't know how this 20 number is a real number, or is it just, hey, we just came up with a number because there's 4 majors we don't own. We got the Players Championship, so that's 5, and there's another 15. Like that's a lot of events you're asking guys. Right. A lot of guys to play 2 tours on. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. The elevated events make sense in terms of there should be a different set of events for the top tier players. You earn your way through, but who gets in those events? How do you earn your way through? How do you lose your way out of it? There's just more questions than answers right now. I like the idea of it. There's certain events that I wish got that first, I guess. I think AT&T last week needs a bump. I think Saudi events have really hurt them and hurt the field. And you're talking about AT&T, a longtime sponsor of the tour. I think you're talking about Pebble Beach, one of the more historic events on tour. I'm not sure why they didn't get. Maybe it's a scheduling thing, which I totally understand. And scheduling is very, very difficult, very challenging for all the events. And maybe they'll get it next year.
Yeah, I mean, look at the Honda Classic. There was a time that was one of the biggest, strongest fields on tour, and now they've lost Honda, which I understand. But I understand from the players' perspective, they're not going to play Pebble and then play Waste Management and then play Genesis and then play Honda and then play API and then play the players.
Yeah,
and now you've got. They clearly, 4 of those events are elevated. Waste Management, Genesis are elevated, API is elevated, and so is the players. The players are the most elevated of them all. So I can see where, as a player, and you could speak to this, you do need a week off.
Oh, 100%. That was it. Davis Thompson got in the Waste Management through a sponsor exemption, and then he just WD'd on Pebble because he needed a week off. And so those things are going to happen. And so the elevating of one event kind of is going to bring down another event. And so it does give opportunity to the players that are there to win. And so, like, through all this, the players have won out. There's just more money coming into the golf.
That's a good thing.
That's a good thing. And so and the question, I guess, I think is, how did the tour didn't clearly prepare for this. They kind of just thought it would go away. Live Golf's they're not going to be able to get this going. They're not going to get players. So there's nothing to worry about.
Right.
And now it feels like 6 months of figuring out what do we do to compete with Live, because you can't tell me these 20 elevated events aren't, because
Well,
of it.
they absolutely are, but you
So,
can't compete with Live because that's a bottomless pit of money. I mean, there is no
yes.
end until I
Well,
still believe the one day the Saudi and the whatever it is, investment group, I do believe there's a time they'll go, okay, we've done this, we're done, and we're gonna go do something else. And then
well,
when Live Golf shuts down, then what?
they've already done that in terms of they need top players. They're not going to pay for mid-level guys anymore. It's they'll pay for, if John Rahm picks up the phone and is like, I'm tired of this.
Right.
They'll pay. But they've done that, and so now they've got a television partner. But this is not, people are like, well, they have more money than God. It doesn't matter. They're not going to just keep funneling this money and make no money
with no return.
Yeah, there's got to be a business. There's got to be world ranking points, a network, and there has to be a system to funnel in to figure out how do you keep it rolling over to the next generation of players. And I think, and then what happens if it folds? I mean, those guys are going to be allowed back on tour. It's all,
Do you think they are? That was my next question.
Of course they are. They're not. What I don't understand. Like, I've never, I was there in the meetings when Jay was telling everybody, you just came home late from a party or something, and your dad's like, hey, listen, you do that again, you're out. You guys leave, you're kicked out. And it's like, what are you talking about? Like, we're not employees. You don't control what we do. You don't have a right to do that. And so I never liked the tour's position and their aggressiveness and how they were talking to us and how they were going to kick us off the tour and you'll never be allowed back. It doesn't, it never made sense to me. I always felt like they should have said,
can't the tour revoke your membership? I mean, it is a membership, correct?
Sure. But are you going to let all great players, they can earn their way back on tour? I mean, of course they're going to be allowed back. If Cam Smith keeps doing what Cam Smith's doing, in 3 years, Live dissolves, he's going to play in majors. He's going to earn his way back on tour. I mean, I don't think they have the right to just kick them off and say, you'll never be allowed to come back on this tour. It just doesn't, to me, it just doesn't make sense to do that.
Speaking of Cam, I see Cam Young played in the Saudi event last week. So how does that work? Did he have to get a release for that?
So I was curious myself, and there were articles. So what happened was before, and this is interesting because I don't have this answer, is the tour clearly had no expectations or even suspected that the Saudis were going to fund Live Golf, because they had, what usually happens is you sign got to play 2 for 3 years, right? And so Cam signed that deal before Live Golf sort of announced. And so they negotiated, because the Saudi tournament was going for a few years, right? And they had Bryson and Dustin, and they signed deals, got releases. And so he signed that deal probably for, hey, you play in these 2 years or 2 out of 3, whatever you choose. And so they signed that contract. Live Golf comes around, and the releases have already been granted. There's nothing they can do about it.
Okay, I see. So he had to make good on that promise.
100%. And the tour can't, and the tour is not going to, Alan, I asked Alan Shipnut, and he was like, the tour's not, they could try, they could go to Cam and say, we're revoking the release. And then that's another lawsuit coming. And they're like, well, we can't do that. So there's no point. It just looks bad. It looks silly. It's not a good look.
Better just to go let him play.
You just kind of push through, and they put out press release and telling everybody that this has already been negotiated. And it was just before the tour had any knowledge of Live Golf, because there's no way they would have signed off on it if they knew they were funding, right? So I don't know so this was kind of Norman was probably trying to keep it under wraps, and they probably were, this is sort of some espionage stuff and trying to get all this in.
So as we get into this week, you've obviously got some firsthand knowledge of, the obviously number 16, the most famous one of the most famous holes in golf there at the Waste Management. As you tee off on Sunday afternoon, you were near the lead. I know you beat Ricky by a stroke in 2010. Is 16 on your mind the whole time as you're getting around that golf course?
For sure. So when you walk to the range, the range and 16 are kind of right there. They're not far from each other.
Okay.
And so it's all loud and it's all crazy. And so what you're hoping for when you start the week on Tuesday, when you get your tee time, is that you have early on Friday. So you hope you have kind of a late round Thursday, and then you kind of go up Friday and go early. Because Friday afternoon is just a mess. It's just a mess. And so that's kind of what you're hoping for. But it's a complete, it's whenever they open the gates, it's people running over there and getting after it, because it's, the amount of fans that can go over there is somewhat limited now. It used to be like fans all down the way. Now they've capitalized, and they've got a super long list of people trying to get boxes in there,
right?
Corporations and stuff. So they've done a cool job of making it really, really unique. But you're hearing it all day long. I mean, all day, all over that golf course.
Now, let me ask you this: you've played both, what is a more treacherous hole to play? 16 at Waste Management or 17 at TPC Sawgrass?
17 for sure.
Really?
For sure, because I played with Sean O'Hare one year, and I think it was the back. Yeah, this was like on a Sunday.
That
and
back right pin.
Pretty good. Yeah, the back right pin. And I think he hit a pretty good shot in there, and I think it skipped over, because that green can get really fast. It can get, the wind blows off of that, so it dries out. And he went to now he's got to go. Now you got to choose: do I drop it, or do I just hit from where I was? Because that drop circle stinks, because that green is got so much elevation going up, and then it really flattens out, and that back right part, it flows down. Right. So your landing area for a shot that long is really tiny, and you really got to figure out which trajectory you're coming in with, and you're guessing on the skip and the bounce and the spin and how that goes. And I think sorry, Sean, but I think he hit like one or two in the water. He hit two more in the water, and they weren't bad shots. Like, he's a phenomenal wedge player. These weren't like, oh, he hit it too far. No, they just like a yard too far, boom, skips, and then it can't stop, and then it goes in the water. It's wow. Like it's a hole you can't wait to get done with. Like, Phil is funny. Phil always had a hard time with that hole. Like, I play practice rounds with it. He's hitting 6-7 shots into that green, because he needs to see it and feel it and get confidence into playing it, because it's just an awkward, the green is so awkward in how it's shaped and everything, and the wind's coming off a certain direction, and it kind of gets humming in there a few times. Yeah, I mean, it's 16 in Waste Management. If you miss the green, you just chip on and then get out of it. Worst you can make is a bogey. You get on too far, and you get booed. But at 17 at TPC, yeah, I mean, it's life or death, and you can go in there with we saw it last year. I mean, the weather was a complete disaster last year. It blew like crazy. Yeah. It rained. It was cold. It was everything. But you can go in there and you can make a 5 or a 6 without even really hitting a bad shot. Without breaking a sweat and not doing anything wrong. You hit the wrong, because it's such a short shot that you're hitting it so high. So it's hard to you really want to flight something in there to kind of keep it out of the wind. But you are wide open. You're extremely exposed for that wind to be coming in from you from really any direction. How have you played 17 at Sawgrass? Well, I mean, I always felt like I played it decent, made pars and get out of there. You can, if you get a good club, right, one day, and you can feel like you're just let it go and be aggressive. You can, the right pin is, the right pin, it looks like it just hangs right over that bunker, and it looks like there's not even actually any green over there. It's you saw that shot Cam Smith hit last year. He hit it right of the pin, which he said, they asked him, was it on purpose? He goes, no, I pushed it. I did. I pushed it. I'm not going to tell you I was aiming over there. Oh, there's no question about it. Yeah, exactly. But we got another big sporting event this weekend. Got the Super Bowl. I know you're big time into football, active on Twitter. Chiefs or Eagles? Who you got this weekend? I think I'm going with I think the Eagles. I do too. I think it's kind of a high scoring game. I feel like which is good. I think it's gonna be phenomenal. Like, I don't have a dog in the fight. I think it's gonna be an incredible game. I think that watching the Eagles play offense is so fun. I mean, there's so much. They spread you out so wide. Right. There's these big gaps for Jalen. They can throw it deep. It's just an incredible story of, I remember, like I said, I don't know if I saw Nick Sirianni's press conference, and it was like during COVID, and it was on like a Zoom call, and he just looked like a deer in headlights. I'm like,
the very first press conference, it was like, what the hell they hired this guy
is an
for?
embarrassment to Philly fans, and this is going to be an epic disaster. And
right.
The dude's figured it out, and he's got a nasty team. They play extremely hard, and they bully you all game. And so Mahomes is special, and Andy Reid is smart as they come. So I just think it's going to be a great offensive battle. I can't wait to watch.
Yeah, there's not enough people talking about what an amazing pickup A.J. Brown was in the offseason for the Eagles.
Aggressive and made total sense, and he's phenomenal. And I wonder if I know that there was Snead got a concussion. I don't know if he's cleared for the Super Bowl yet.
I don't know.
I'm literally just asking. I hope someone will respond, but
yeah.
But that's a big loss because their secondary is really not very good. So We'll see. It should be. I think it's going to be fantastic. I think it's going to be a really good game.
And who would have ever thought the Chiefs would get better by getting rid of Tyreek Hill?
Well, smart. It's a smart organization. Andy Reid is brilliant. I think what did he go to 4 NFC championships in a row? Guy knows. I mean, he knows how to build.
This is the 5th AFC title game year in a row they've been in the AFC title game. The Chiefs,
NFC, AFC. The guy in Patrick Mahomes got his muse, and they just get it. They understand each other. Travis Kelce is unstoppable. I mean, it's. I just think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be. It feels like it's going to be fast. It's not going to be a slow Super Bowl. It feels like it's going to be. They want to go.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for it. It'll be good. But man, I appreciate your time, Hunter. You've been awesome, dude. And it's good to see you again. Good to see what you're doing. Anything else you're doing in your life professionally that's going to be after golf? Do you have any plans in place, or is it kind of just what comes along?
Kind of just what comes along. There's I'm taking time to figure out what I want to do or I'm willing to do. I like being home right now. I like what I do every day and waking up and being a husband and father, and that's challenging enough. And so,
especially with 4 of them.
Yeah, I'm enjoying talking about golf and my experience and stuff like that. So, not sure what's gonna come of it, but I'm open to a lot of things, and I want to be good at whatever I choose to do next.
Have you ever thought about teaching golf? Are you the next Sean Foley?
Definitely not. Definitely not. I remember when I was working with Sean, he would tell me.
Sean's much more than a golf coach. Am I correct?
Yeah, he is. But the amount of time he spent hours and hours sitting on a range teaching 20 handicaps to hit it better. It's incredible to where he's come from and see what he's done with all the players that he's worked with. It's no accident of the success that he's had, but that is real work. And nowadays it's a lot different. I mean, guys now they kind of show up with, these degrees in like biomechanics and different stuff. And
right.
They can kind of choose who they want to work with. When you hit that one dude, that one guy who's a stud, all of a sudden you become a household name way more than you used to. Guys like Randy Smith who would sit on the range for hours and teaching, a 12 handicap, and then all of a sudden Justin Leonard pulls up, or then I would pull up, or Harrison Fraser, all these great players pull up. Those guys don't exist anymore. And it's cool to see him. Randy's someone I work with, and just going to shout out to him and see what Scotty and him have done is very, very cool. He's someone who's a true teacher of the game of golf, and it's awesome to see.
Yeah, you, Rosie, and Ames were pretty early on when Foley was teaching pros, right?
Ames was the first dude that, Canadian, that was their connection, and that was his first guy that got him out on tour and introduced me to Sean O'Hare was one of his first guys.
Oh, Sean O'Hare, I forgot about that, yeah.
Yeah, and then it kind of looped in with us, and then Rosie came along later, and then, it was always so funny because Tiger would kind of be in the range, and he'd just kind of shuffle over and kind of listen in and ask a few questions, and then he'd pop back and hit some balls, and and it was always cool to see that.
Could you tell Tiger was intrigued on what was being taught and what was being said?
Oh, for sure. He was super intrigued, and we knew that it was definitely at the end. I played with him right when it was over with Hank, and he didn't show up to the Players Championship. We played with him that week, and he jumped in with us, with me and Sean, and we were out and played. And just listening in, asking a few questions, understand what Sean's kind of thing was and what he was kind of teaching and what he was trying to get across. So it was very, very cool time. And that was, I don't think anyone understands how the work that Sean did with Tiger, how great that was. He doesn't.
I will say this, and everybody's got their own beliefs. I do believe that Butch probably not only had Tiger playing his best. I think Butch had the best Tiger to teach as far as health purposes.
Well, he's 20 years old, right? So
right.
Of course he was. He was.
I didn't love the Haney swing. I thought he had a miss going both ways. I thought if Sean could have had the healthy Tiger to teach, I think Tiger would have won even more than he did previously already win.
Sean did incredible work with Tiger. Incredible work from when they started to where they got to. Amazing stuff. And to win 5 times in a year, like
2013.
We just took that for granted from Tiger. And that doesn't happen nowadays. Like no one does that.
And remember, he won 5 times, and he also, if that ball doesn't hit the flag at the Masters and go in the water, he makes birdie there. And if you remember, he ended up making bogey, and then he got docked a shot for the drop and everything else.
Yeah,
he would have gotten into the playoff with Adam Scott if it just weren't for that hole. If he makes birdie there, that puts him in the playoff.
It's crazy to hit a good shot and get, not many times in sports you do exactly what you're supposed to do and you get penalized for it. It's pretty wild of that stuff. But winning the Players, which is never his favorite golf course, which is always just awkward. Not every course fits every player. Like Riviera, he can never win. But that's kind of his hometown golf course. But to go out win the Players like he did, just a stripe show, was super impressive.
It really was. And he did some good stuff. Well, Hunter, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Would absolutely love to have you on again sometime for sure, man.
I'm glad we could connect. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, man. Your golf knowledge is great. Really appreciate it. We got a good week this week. Got a Super Bowl, and then the Genesis, which is Tiger's event. I'm sure we'll see Tiger at the Genesis hosting, probably not playing, but we will see him there hosting, is my guess. And then we'll come to Florida, warm things up a little bit, and hopefully we get a good Players Championship this year. But thanks again, Hunter, man. Really appreciate it. And thanks for tuning into another edition of the Stripe Show podcast.